Now then, welcome back to this video about volts, amps and watts, and it's a follow-on from the last video. And at the end of that I was referring to not drawing too much out of your battery system, being aware of what things draw, what things consume, and also being aware of what your generation into your batteries from solar or wind is at that day. So it's all a big balancing. Anyway, what we're going to do today is look at a little snapshot of what you could possibly be consuming at any one moment. And we're just going to take an example. So let's zoom in. So let's assume, I mean, you're off grid. Let's assume that, here we go, here's a laptop with Linux Mint on it. I quite like this. This is Mint 19, I believe. It's a whole system with all extra software and whatnot. I might do a video about that sometime. Anyway, these things are very handy. A plug-in watt meter, effectively. So it shows that that laptop in a, shall we say, a dormant state. It's plugged in, but actually it's not doing anything. Is say 12 watts, and you can do this with all sorts of pieces of equipment. Very handy. But I have done a test on my laptop indoors running YouTube with a little remote speaker as well, and that was drawing 40 watts. Okay, so when you're using a laptop or making the processor work, processing whatever it's doing, then obviously it takes more power than your standard 12 watts when it's just running the software and charging the battery. Anyway, so we've got that idea now. So let's zoom down and have an imaginary system. Okay, so we've got the laptop. It's 40 watts. Let's imagine that we're running a fridge, and I've looked at the fridge we've got here, and the run wattage is 55 watts. There we go, 230 volt, 50 hertz, 55 watts. Then perhaps we got some lights, so we got some LED lights. Yeah, and let's say we've got 3 times 5 watt. That's 15 watts. 5 watt is about right for an LED light. Can go up to 8 or 10. Yeah. Well, that's, you know, we're off grid, and that will do for the moment. It's just an example. Okay, now the fridge won't be running all the time, and it also has, for about a second when it starts up, it draws a lot more power. But what we're doing here is we're talking about an instant, a moment in time. Yeah, so effectively that's 60, 70 plus 40 is 110 watts. Now you've got a 12 volt battery system with solar and a little wind turbine. Okay, so we've got 12 volts battery, and an inverter. So we have an inverter like this one here, and this is one that I use when I'm teaching. It's 350 watts, 12 volts. Okay, you could go, it doesn't actually say on the outside of this, on any labels, how much it draws, just to run itself, but commonly it's about 25 watts. Yeah, so with Victron you could go on their website and actually find out the technical details of that, whereas some of the cheaper brands it doesn't say and you can't find out. But let's work on a rule of thumb of 25 watts. So an inverter is 25 watts. So that's 135 watts. Okay, that's at an instant. Okay, that is running all the time. Those will be running all the time. The fridge switching on and off. The laptop, yeah, all the time when you're using it. Same with the lights. But the inverter is all the time unless you switch it off. So we have, as we look at the last video, we've got 135 watts divided by 12 volt. Okay, so looking at the ohms wheel, yes, we have watts and we have volts. So watts here is P. So therefore then looking at here, we want the current in amps. So therefore current in amps is watts P divided by volts. Yeah, so we'll just go and do that calculation. So 10 12s are 120, 11 12s are 132. And for those people who didn't do their times tables at school, so we've got 12 times 11 equals 132. So equals 11 amps. Okay, so that's what you would be drawing out of your batteries at any one moment when you're running all this lot. And so therefore if you had, say, 2 times 100 amp hour batteries, yeah, so that's 200 amp hours. Yeah. Now, given the fact that you can only, on lead acid, it's only sensible to draw out up to 50% of the capacity. If you draw any more than that on a regular basis, you're into ruining your batteries. And even on the lithium ion, you don't want to really deeply cycle them all the time, because that will lead to trouble. But with a lead acid, we effectively is at 50% we have 100 amp hours. Okay, so at 11 amps, 9 11s are 99. So we have 9, that gives 100 divided by 11 equals 9 hours. Hopefully all that makes sense. You have 9 hours run time with that load on those batteries. I'm going to leave it at that. That is a snapshot. The fact that the fridge won't be running all the time, might be running, say, 3 times 5 minutes within an hour. The fact that you won't be using the laptop all the time and the lights might not be on all the time, but the inverter will be, will affect everything. And this is where we can start talking about watt hours and amp hours, and working down. So we can say that 55 watts, and then work out how long, or estimate how long it would be running in an hour, and transfer that a multiple of watt hours, and then we can work backwards. And effectively you can get an idea of how your system should behave. But basically, remember the rule. There's no such thing as too many solar panels. And of course, the amount of solar panels that you actually need to run a system varies throughout the year. In the middle of the summer, you'll do very well. Towards the middle of winter, you'll be using your backup generator or backup charger. Guaranteed. Yeah, so I'll leave it with you, and next time we'll cover some more detail.